to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Robert Preville, CEO and founder of Approve. Thanks for joining me, Robert.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
In full disclosure to anyone watching we've met before at a few conferences, but as far as having a conversation and me learning more about Robert, this is our first conversation. So let's see how my interviewing style or skills can be here, man.
Absolutely.
So for people who might not be familiar with yourself, myself included, Robert, do you mind just kind of giving your background and career to date?
Yeah. So Robert Preville, CEO of Approve. My background is actually not one that comes out of equipment finance. I actually have a background, and most of us at the company have a background in industrial sales and procurement. So we're actually the end user of the equipment finance industry's products and services, and a lot of what we have built is through that sort of purview. But career started back in late 90s. I helped start a company. We built an online marketplace for contract manufacturing services. It was a pretty exciting time to be building online marketplaces. It was a novel concept, and we all came out of the manufacturing industry, and the business took off. In 2004, I exited when Jeff Bezos, believe it or not, bought half the business. So did not get to meet Jeff, but I met a lot of his lawyers, so that was fun. And even back then, he had a lot of lawyers. But I then started another company called Global Test Supply. Not quite as sexy of a business model, but nonetheless a high growth business. We were a distributor of test and measurement equipment. And that was probably the first time I got exposed to equipment finance, in that I was a vendor. We had a partnership with an equipment finance company, and we also rented equipment, and we were sort of opportunistic in starting a small rental business that turned out to be a very lucrative part of our business. I sold Global Test Supply in 2011, and the thought occurred to me that there were a lot of companies like Global Test Supply that were servicing niche equipment rental demand. I think mostly, when we think of equipment rentals, we think of yellow iron, excavators, and scissor lifts, and United Rental, right? But you don't think of things like laboratory and medical equipment or specialized engineering equipment, right? So the thought was to build a marketplace in what I perceived to be a fragmented supply chain, and that's where marketplaces tend to offer have the greatest impact to value. And we started Quipt as an online marketplace for equipment rentals. So loose analogy, think Airbnb for equipment rentals, although we like a lot more sophisticated on how it works. No offense, Airbnb. But not long after we started the business, customers approached us about leasing equipment. And candidly, we didn't really understand the difference. Leasing and renting, a lease contract is a rental contract. So it took us some time to sort of wrap our heads around that. And the conclusion that we came to is that specifically capital equipment leasing, customers who want to lease have an expectation of ownership at the end of the contract. Customers who want to rent have an expectation to return the equipment when they're done. And what we realized was that the suppliers in our marketplace did not want to finance customers' purchases. And that's where the equipment leasing industry comes into play. So what we did was we aggregated many of the top direct lenders of equipment finance products, and we built process and workflow within our marketplace. And we said, if you want to rent, you go down this path, and if you want to lease, you go down that path. And the way we actually did it was when a supplier submitted a quote against a request that came into the marketplace, we told the supplier, just how much are you willing to sell this for? And then what we did was we used the tech, and we put a monthly payment option right on that quote. And if you clicked on that option, it would take the customer to a finance application, and then they would apply. And then that application would go out to a network of lenders based upon some sorts of rather sophisticated algorithms that determine best fit. And then we were able to get multiple offers back from lenders, and more importantly, we were able to optimize approval rates. Get it to the right lender the first time, right? What we did, which we didn't realize we did, was we embedded financing at the point of sale, right?
Right.
Customers came up to us and they said, suppliers, and they said, man, we really like the way your platform works. Is there any way we can use it for our customers that are not on Quipt? And that was a light bulb moment. We were like, holy cow, there's a massive opportunity here. To the extent that we launched a new product that we called Approve. It ported out the technology from the marketplace. It allowed suppliers and equipment sellers to embed it at their own points of sale, and now what we refer to as points of influence. And then we even changed the name of our company from Quipt to Approve. So we started as the marketplace, and now we're a full-fledged B2B payment solution and fintech company.
Got it. And thank you for that background. So are you headquartered? Are you guys all virtual? Do you have an office?
No, we are headquartered in Wilmington, North Carolina. I am anti-virtual office. We like everybody to come to the office. We appreciate human contact here at Approve.
That's fair. That's perfectly fair. I totally get that.
I'm probably showing my age by saying that, but so be it.
No. I mean, it's amazing the different philosophy where, towards the beginning of the pandemic, I'm like, oh my God, the pendulum's all the way over here where no one's going to want to go back to the office. And now I thought it would swing back to maybe hybrid or whatever else, but I think it's going back to maybe a couple days. It's got to appease some people, maybe. But from a cultural perspective, it's easier to have someone in the office there.
That's right.
So that's really neat. And I guess if there's people out there that are looking to start up anything, you're definitely the guy to come to, because this is what your third. Actually, well, 3.5, I guess, if you consider Equipped and Approved.
That's right. Yeah. And some if you follow startup media and you learn the language, that they often use this word pivot. And I tell investors all the time, I said, we did not pivot. We never will pivot. And to that extent, I don't like the word pivot, because that's not in tune with what the reality is. The reality is any business, it's an evolution. Pivot sort of implies you went down a path, you realize it's the wrong path, then you're going to do an about face and go down a different path. An evolution is more about, you would never have gotten to where you're at if you didn't make the decisions that you made prior, right? So we did not see the opportunity for Approve when we started Quipt. We did not know where we were going to go, but we're of a cultural mindset that we will be opportunistic, we will be agile, we will test and measure, and then we'll let the business take us where it goes. So it's been very much an evolution.
No, and then that's a great point. And the first question I have in regards to a quoting tool, as someone who sold lease accounting software for 10 years, was, you had that in our end-to-end product. Why would we need, why would we want something outside our product? Yeah. I'm sure you get that all the time.
Yeah, no, so absolutely. So we have spent a lot of time thinking about our role and where we fit into other systems and software and processes, right? What we are doing at Approve is we are embedding finance at the point of sale. And I think before elaborating on where we fit in, it makes sense to sort of talk about that for a second.
Sure.
What does embedded finance mean, right? It's a buzzword, but what is the definition to embedded finance, for embedded finance, right? We put a lot of thought into it. The definition that we came up with was, we are embedding ourselves not necessarily in software or not necessarily on websites. We are embedding ourselves in a buyer's journey. If you think about an industrial buyer's journey, it typically starts with recognition of some problem. There's some problem that needs to be solved, right? And a lot of time is spent trying to figure out exactly what that problem is. Right. Once you have a good understanding of the problem, it moves into solution discovery. It's okay, there's different ways we can solve this problem. We can spend a whole lot of money on technology. We can put a whole lot of people towards it. There's any number of ways we can solve this. So let's figure that out. You then get into a vendor identification, who are the vendors that can provide the service or product. And then lastly, it's how are we going to transact? I think most people, when they think about embedded finance, are thinking about the very last part. How can we transact, right? How do I embed monthly payment options to a shopping cart? By the time a buyer gets to a shopping cart, they've already recognized a problem. They've already gone through solution discovery. They've gone through vendor identification. You're at the very last part. And that's where I think the equipment finance industry has played for a very long time. But there's a huge missed opportunity. And the opportunity is to move up that buyer's journey so that affordability impacts the solution outcome. It impacts the vendor outcome. Knowing what your affordability is, making that part of the solution definition, the solution scope, it really changes what's possible. So, when we think about embedding finance, we're yes, we want to embed financing in various software systems so that when someone sends a quote, the finance options are there. But arguably, it's sort of too late at that point, right? What we really want to do is we want to embed finance very early on in that buyer journey when the salespeople are having early discussions about potential solutions and understanding the problem, because that will ultimately drive business to the industry that the industry is not seeing today. And I think that is the real power of embedded finance.
So how do you go about doing that? How do you go about moving that up?
So that's the magic question, right? That's the question of the day. Right?
Sorry, I'm more of a curiosity where it's like, if you could understand where someone's hitting a website from, and it's like, oh, this is a John Deere thing. Like, let's show them the most expensive lawnmower they can get, and they can afford it. I'm just trying to understand that.
So it starts with understanding how a vendor brings their product to markets, right? Some manufacturers sell direct, some manufacturers sell through distribution, some have hybrid programs. How do distributors go to market? Some are sophisticated B2B marketers, some have brick and mortar stores and they sell over the counter. And you have to understand all what we call points of influence with the customer. When does the customer get engaged with a potential solution, a product, a piece of equipment? How does the customer collaborate throughout the sales process with potential vendors? And figure out how can we inject into each one of those points, right? So our approach has been to sort of blanket a tool, create a blanket tool set that can be used in any number of different ways, but give them the tools to inject at different points of influence. So yes, we have a website plugin so that if it's at, if you're at the very end of the transaction and you're ready to check out, clearly you can do this through our financing, technology. But we also have more traditional tool sets. We have tool sets that allow you to embed financing on your quotes. We have tool sets that allow you to present financing via a QR code, so that if you're at a trade show, if you're in person, if you're using product collateral, if you put your QR codes on product collateral, that collateral is often getting to the customer earlier in the buyer journey than when the salesperson's getting to the customer, right?
Interesting.
Websites, although they look like shopping carts and they look transactional, they oftentimes become more supportive to a transaction. Go to the website to get product specs and pricing, come back to me when you're ready for a custom quote, we'll configure it and you can send me a purchase order, right?
That's an interesting concept, because I dropped off my car today at the Audi dealership first for just standard maintenance. And, as you're waiting for things to get done, you just walk around and you check everything out. So there's a QR code I could scan on a newer model, and it just kind of showed you some payment options.
Yeah.
I just think out loud, because I don't want to deal with anyone, because I'm not in the market for a car. But if the price was in line, where I'm like,
that's right.
Interesting. Okay.
We built them. We have a mobile app, right? And the idea behind there is you're interfacing with a customer. Maybe you're in construction. A lot of sales guys are literally going to the job site, talking to the on-site manager. They're having a conversation. Hey, I tell you what, let me show you what we can do for you. Boom, boom, boom. Send them a text link to monthly payment options and a built-in application for what you just talked about, right? Put it on their device. So it's just numerous touch points, and the buyer journey is different for everybody. But the point is, I think the challenge is not building software and tech, but the challenge is conditioning vendors to be able to think about financing as a sales tool, right? Think about how that could potentially impact solution outcome. And I think the tactical strategy that we often think about is how can we bypass the salesperson? Because I think the industry has suffered from
Carvana. I mean, right?
Yeah,
you don't have to deal with anything. It's like you hit a.
And let me rephrase that.
Sorry,
not bypass the salesperson, but how do we get salespeople to stop filtering out opportunity for the industry? You think about a salesperson that's what do salespeople want? Salespeople want to get paid commission, preferably in this month's commission check, right? That's what they want. So if you're a salesperson and you're selling a $50,000 piece of equipment and you're getting ready to close the deal, you can say something like, hey, would you like to apply for financing? Wait 3 days. Hopefully you'll get approved. And then, we can get this done in a week. Or would you say, hey, write me a check or give me a credit card because I can, right? So what's happening is the salesperson saying, do I really want to put this person through financing? I don't know. And that's a missed opportunity for the equipment finance industry, right?
Yeah.
So how do we get the customer to ask the salesperson, hey, I would really like to engage in financing here as we get to the last stage of this, and then the salesperson doesn't have a choice, right? That's the key. Now, what happens to the industry? The industry is already massive, but there's a much bigger opportunity here. Credit card transactions, cash transactions, trade credit transactions. If we can get more companies bringing the business in, all those transactions can start flowing through the balance sheets of the equipment finance companies and lenders, right?
Yeah.
Because all those, and what do? We got to make equipment finance as easy as taking a credit card. That's the key. It all comes down to that salesperson saying, I don't care how you pay, because right now they do.
Right. Especially depending on business essential equipment or whatever else, they'll figure out a way. But yeah, it's a good point. Where I was going with Carvana is I've been on the business development side for my 19-year career, and going and dealing with people when I'm buying vehicles or anything, utility vehicles, any of that stuff. It's like, I know what I want. I know what I'm willing to pay. I know what my credit is. Just skip the human interaction.
And in some cases that makes a lot of sense too. There's no question. Yeah.
But I guess I never really thought about the missed opportunity portion of it. So it's a great point.
Yeah.
So I saw your website launched about 10 months ago, the approved website. Do you want to talk about that journey and kind of what you've seen over the last 10 months, Robert?
Yeah. So actually, Approve as a product is actually about going on 2 years old now. We launched the website when we rebranded the company. So we changed the name of the company about 10 months ago. It's been very successful. We go to market not unlike any equipment finance lender. We have a sales team, in our case, inside sales team, whose job it is to acquire vendors. And get engagement from those vendors. When the vendors engage with the technology becomes a pretty big value add, and it sort of locks in the relationship for us. It's once somebody adopts a certain technology or builds a process, it's less it's a little bit more difficult for them to change that out, right? I think when we first launched it, we suspected it was going to be a small business tool. We were surprised to find out that large enterprises find a lot of value in what we're doing as well. So it's a great solution from very small business up to enterprise, and we do have as you get up to the enterprise, we have a more customizable implementation and tool set that allows them to do some pretty creative things with it and build it in their process. We've started looking at different workflows. If you're a small business, it's pretty straightforward. But big businesses where you have manufacturers who want to have a sort of virtual captive finance program for their distribution channel, they want transparency and insight to the leads that they're generating, but they don't actually want to work the leads. They want to fund their distributors, but they want their name on the paperwork. It gets really complicated, right? But we have solutions for that as well. And I think as we've evolved, we've sort of continued to redefine ourselves. And I think where we're at today is we are at the point of sale, point of influence for several hundred vendors. That's a pretty powerful thing, especially at a technology level, right? So the question we ask is, what else can we be doing there? We are now exploring other B2B payment solutions, not related to equipment finance, but related to the types of things that can't be financed, supplies and consumables, right? Because a lot of our vendors, equipment is a small part of their business. Say, typical distributor, they may, their revenues may be 20% equipment sales, 80% supplies and consumables. And the equipment really is a customer acquisition tool. That their margins on equipment are fairly slim, but they sell equipment so that they can acquire the customers to make good margins on the recurring purchases of supplies and consumables for that application. We want that business to flow through the approved platform too. So don't have too much detail at this point, but we're working on we're codenamed a product called Approved Pay that will provide a solution in that arena.
Well, that's good, and that goes to your earlier point where it's the evolution of your platform, not a pivot. So that's spot on. And if you guys, I'm gonna have to mess around with your, I'll have to go look at your app on your phone, because I know in equipment finance there are very few equipment finance organizations that you can actually have an app or have access to an app, and let alone make a payment. So that payment piece is big.
Yeah. And I'll tell you I'm going to give away a little bit of a trade secret here, which makes the podcast valuable. What we've done with the phone is, you can pretty much do everything on the phone that you can do on the web. But the psychology of the phone is a little different. Imagine you have your phone in your pocket, a finance application comes in from your website, and then your phone buzzes, right? And then your phone keeps buzzing because finance applications keep coming in from your website. If you're the salesperson, you're going to quickly associate a vibrating butt with sales opportunities, right? And it's a powerful way to I think acquire sort of cognitive mind share of the important people here, and that is the people that have the most influence in the ability to bring finance to these transactions. So we think what the phone really does is it creates that constant notification and tie into this idea that equipment finance equals sales opportunities.
Nope, absolutely. So in your first, what I guess lessons learned, Robert, any things that if you know it now, would you know then?
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Lessons learned. This is a lesson learned very long time ago, and it very much applies to what we're doing, and that we definitely have relearned it. We are a digital first company. That doesn't mean we're digitally exclusive, right? Digitally exclusive would be if you want to interface with us in any way, do it through the website, through the phone, right? What we do is we provide technology to automate and build in intelligence where appropriate, but then we have white glove service, behind the scenes where technology just doesn't do it, right? So in this world of tech and embedded finance and automation and automated credit adjudication and all this, it will. I think the tech, at least in the short term, in the next 5 to 10 years, will satisfy 60 to 70% of the use cases, but the other 30% are still very much going to be somebody talking to somebody on the phone or face to face saying, hey, here are the benefits of the different types of financing solutions, and here's a different way to apply that may be more appropriate for your business need, and here's you just need that consultation and that collaboration, I think, as part of this process. So I think the lesson learned is, and the lesson we continue to learn is, where does the tech solve a problem and where do the people solve a problem? And it's definitely a team effort.
It's a good way. Thank you for bringing me some sanity there, because the whole press one and then you go through this whole 10-minute thing. It's like, come on, just this doesn't require, there's no way this issue is going to be solved by, I need to talk to somebody.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I have to get on one more automated phone system just to get transferred to somebody.
It's like, come on. And then when you get transferred to someone, it's always the same person with the same name. And it's like, just, can we stop?
That's right.
The madness?
That's right. Yeah.
So you're embedding this at the actual captive or vendor. What about bolting on to a lease accounting platform? Is that something that's on your potential roadmap? Would that be of value? I think that would be a big value, obviously, if you could bolt that on. Is that something you guys are looking into?
Not specifically, but what we have done is we've created an open API. So our entire platform has been built on an API that we created for ourselves that is also open to others. So what that really does is, instead of us investing the resources to integrate with specific software solutions or specific workflows and processes, it really creates more flexibility for the customers or the lenders to integrate in a way that makes sense for them. So our open API, it's a RESTful API. It's just about everything you can do with a button push in our interface can be done via an API call. We sort of modeled it after Stripe, in terms of their approach to, creating an API interface to merchant processing, right? We haven't had too many people use it yet, but we do have at least use it in its entirety. But we have a number of our lenders on our platform. The application information flows directly into their systems without intervention. There's web hooks that come back. So if approvals are submitted on their end, automatically flows back to the customers and some of the vendor systems. So it's a rather sophisticated platform, but we wanted to build a ubiquitous solution that would work for any application as opposed to trying to integrate in a vertical way.
Because that was always one of those things, I know from a lease accounting perspective and being in that space for 10 years, where it was like, oh, we need an end-to-end. We want one system that does everything. Now I see that's gone away. And it's like, no, we need the best of each. So if this is the best quoting tool, how can I have that quoting tool sync up with this doc repository to this engine? So that's where I was asking that question.
And it's a challenge. I mean, it's, we don't want to rebuild Salesforce. We don't want to rebuild a leasing accounting. We're not going to be a general ledger. I mean, it's, that's not what we're doing. So it is a challenge to figure out, where we should be. And I think, as opposed to what I did 20 some odd years ago and building the first marketplace, there's a lot more interoperability out there today than there was back then. And I think, there's been a huge mind shift towards vertical development to more horizontal development. And it's okay that we are playing in an accounting area, but we don't have to be the accounting core.
No, and that's a great philosophy, because I think about equipment finance, and this industry is so unique, where you mentioned earlier, it's those niche verticals.
Yeah.
Like, how many people really need that widget? That there's a company that is a captive of that just does that widget.
Yeah.
Equipment finance. Sure enough. They specialize in it, they learn it, and they make a lot of good money off it by just focusing on the one thing.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, excellent. Well, I ask everyone who comes on here to tell a little fun fact about themselves. So, other than the fact that Jeff Bezos' attorneys maybe on a first name basis, what else would you like to share with my audience here, Robert?
Fun fact about myself.
What makes you tick outside of starting new companies? Like, what do you like to do in your free time, if you have it?
So I am a father of two boys, 11 and 13, and I'm the CEO of Preville, but I actually work for my wife and my children. So I'm a bit of an indentured servant when it comes to my primary purpose on this planet. Uh, and I tell you, I think raising kids is, you can read all the self-help books you want. Raising kids is probably the best way to figure out how best to manage people in the workplace.
It works at work. I can't understand why it doesn't work at home. I see some baseball, looks like some baseball photos behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, my 13-year-old son plays baseball year round. You're afforded that here in Arizona. I'm sure North Carolina, you can do that majority of the year too.
We do the same thing, and my 11-year-old is a really good baseball player. They were the second place team in their league World Series last year. So we got to travel to Louisiana to go play some international teams and teams throughout the country. That was a lot of fun, but yeah, I'll tell you, the other thing too is, and I think this is probably my most valuable takeaway from my professional career, and it's very much exemplified in our company. I learned very early on that I would rather work to live as opposed to live to work, right? Matter of fact, I left a lot of money on the table at one point to leave a company that was doing very well, but had a bit of a toxic culture, and came to the conclusion that life's just too short, right? So, we promote that in our culture. We have this phrase or saying, we call it happy work, hashtag happy work if you go online. And the idea is that, I forget what we calculated. It was like, you're going to work 90,000 hours in your life. They really should be happy hours. You should, and what does that mean? It starts with, enjoying who you're working with. And then everything else sort of falls into place after that, right? So it's enjoying who you're working with, how your work is impacting others, and how your work is impacting yourself. So we're not a 90-hour a week kind of. We find people to be a lot more productive. Work hard, play hard, but do your traditional 8-hour day. But we live at the beach here in North Carolina. Go home. It's beautiful weather. Go play baseball. Do whatever you do. Because if you find that work-life balance, you're going to be 100 times more productive for the company than you would if you were stressed out, right? So that's a big thing for me personally, and it's something that we really our money is where our mouth is at, in the office.
No, and that's a refreshing take from someone in a leadership position. That's why I left my previous company, toxic work environment. And it's like, I don't care how much money I make, it's time for me to go do something else.
It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. 90,000 hours is a lot of hours.
it's a lot of hours. So I guess kind of in closing here, why choose approve as opposed, because the challenge that I've run into sometimes with some or industries, especially when it comes to, not industries, some organizations, when it comes to quoting tools, is they think that they can build the better rocket ship at all times.
Yeah.
So why choose approve as opposed to going down this path or using a different tool?
Well, I mean, we can go down the list of value propositions and competitive differentiators, and it's a long list. But I think most importantly is choose something. I think that we have some actors that provide like-minded solutions, and I think the more people out there that are doing what we're doing or taking our approach, I mean, one, it validates what we do. You're never going to find a successful company that doesn't have competition. Right. And two, it helps us bring in, innovation to market. I've always been involved in innovative businesses. And the challenge with innovation is that, it's early adopters that you can sell to, and it's very expensive and challenging to find them. The more people out there bringing the same style of innovation to the market, the quicker the market becomes receptive to that kind of solution, right? So
Right.
we actually have good relationships with some of our most direct competitors. And we would even go as far as trying to help them in some regard to find success, because I think that helps everybody. But what you'll find, I think, is you choose to do business with a company. It starts with the people. It always, you don't learn that until you're late in your career. But our product is strong today. It's going to continue to evolve to a either even stronger product tomorrow, as long as the same like-minded people are behind it. And if you're a company that's looking for a solution, solutions are not perfect. You want to make sure that people are.
As perfect can be.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's
Well, well, thanks again for your time today, Robert. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. Like I said, your management style, the way you're leading your organization is refreshing. And excited to see, more about Approve and, the strides that you guys continue to make as an organization.
Well, I appreciate it, Jesse. I thank you very much for having us on the show, and wish you continued success as well.
All right. Thank you, sir. Have a good day.